I do admire Nexus Institute, what you do and how much you delivered such strong messages, not just for Europe, but for humanity and our common values. Hello.
I think we lost something. Where is French democracy?
Where did we lost it?
Where did we lost it?
I can answer this question if you give me some time.
French ministers of the social and the environmental movement. Or maybe when you make us again French Parliament.
Nobody listens. You have millions of people in the streets. Conventions of climate has been put aside. What can you say when you talk about Europe?
Do you allow me to answer?
For the President of the Republic of France, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, we are here to shed light on these lies.
This is my first video update from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Wednesday morning. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with little Napoleon, Emmanuel Macron, who is right now in the Netherlands speaking at The Hague. I believe he is in the Netherlands for a 2 or 3 day visit. And it seems to me like Macron just doesn't want to go back to France. That's what it looks like to me. I'm positive that these visits were planned well in advance, but I am 100% confident that Macron is dreading going back to France, and he's actually pretty happy about his visit to Beijing and his visit now to the Netherlands, because when he goes back to France, he is going to be met with all kinds of protests. As he was speaking at The Hague, he was also met with protesters, or hecklers, I guess you could say, and they held a banner during his speech, which read, "President of Violence and Hypocrisy." That is little Napoleon. And they were shouting at him as he was giving his speech at The Hague, home of the ICC and the people who issued the arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin. And Macron, he said in his speech that the EU should find its independence and its sovereignty. So the meeting with the Chinese, with Xi Jinping, it's sticking with Macron so far. Macron is still talking about how the European Union needs to break away from its dependence on the United States, its dependence on the US dollar, and needs to be sovereign. So the Chinese diplomacy really did work, at least for the time being, short term. Wait until Macron goes back to France, and then he's paid a visit by the US ambassador to France, or CIA director Mr. Burns pays a secret visit to Paris, which will then be reported on by CNN, because that's how Mr. Burns' secret visits go. He makes a secret visit somewhere, like he did to Saudi Arabia, and it's a secret visit, a top secret visit, and then CNN reports on it a couple of days later. But and when he went to Saudi Arabia, the CIA director told the Saudis that the CIA in the United States was not happy about their negotiations with Iran and having China mediate. And the CIA director asked the Saudis, why was the US kept out of the loop? And the response to that is pretty simple. You were kept out of the loop because we knew that you were going to sabotage the diplomatic rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia. That's why you were kept out of the loop. But I imagine that when Macron goes back to France, Mr. Burns is going to pay a visit to Macron, and he's going to tell Macron, stop all of this sovereignty. Let's move away from the dollar. Let's become independence nonsense. That is what Burns is going to tell Macron. And Burns is going to say something like, if you don't stop all of this nonsense, well, then these protests will grow much, much larger, because we will insert our own professional CIA protesters into the mix. And we're going to then send Victoria Nuland to Paris, and she's going to pass out cookies and bread to the protesters who are protesting around, I don't know, around the Eiffel Tower or whatever. They're going to send Vicky Nuland there, and she's going to start passing out cookies to the protesters. And then the media is going to start talking about the protesters, and they're going to talk about how evil Macron is and what a dictator Macron is, and he should be removed. And that's going to be the message that Burns gives to Macron. But Macron, so far, he's loving this whole China's got my back thing. Macron probably thinks that he's this diplomacy master. He's playing the U.S. off against China, and he's going to thread the needle between the U.S. and China, and he's going to thread that needle all the way to becoming emperor of Europe. And Macron is probably thinking that he's playing this 5D chess. For the Chinese, it's all good. It's all good. They've created divisions in the European Union. They've got Macron doubting EU escalation, sanctions, war with China. And so for the Chinese, they got what they wanted. They got some doubt in the European Union. They got time, which was the most important thing for them. They bought some time so they could continue to prepare for the eventual smash with the U.S. and the neocons. For the Chinese, it's all good. You even have Charles Michel, the sidekick, the EU sidekick to Ursula von der Crazy, talking about how the European Union needs to get in on this independence sovereignty action that Macron was discussing with Xi Jinping in Beijing. So you even have a very high level EU official talking about EU independence from the US. So look, the Chinese, they got what they wanted. And Macron, for the time being, he's riding high on his big meeting with Xi Jinping and the whining and dining that the Chinese gave him. And he's feeling good about himself, but all of that will change when he returns to France. So another trip that took place was the Ukrainian Prime Minister to Canada, Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, my precious Denis Shmyhal. He arrived in Canada looking for weapons because the Ukraine government, the Zelensky regime, they are traveling all over the collective West looking for whatever weapons they can get their hands on for the big spring offensive. Or maybe it's the summer offensive, because the Ukraine Prime Minister, in an interview that he gave with The Hill, the Ukraine Prime Minister said that the spring offensive may actually be a summer offensive. According to the Prime Minister of Ukraine, he said that the Ukraine military is under no pressure to launch an offensive, under no pressure at all to launch an offensive. He said that the Ukraine military wants to make sure that they get their offensive 100% right. So it's important that they prepare to make sure the offensive is more than 100% ready. So they'll take their time before they launch an offensive. and that offensive may happen in the summer. The Ukraine prime minister said that Ukraine's partners and allies, the United States, NATO, they are not putting pressure on the Zelensky government to launch an offensive. He said the pressure is actually coming from inside Ukraine. Domestic, internal forces are applying pressure to launch an offensive. Not from the outside, not from Blinken, not from Newland, not from Sullivan. No. There's no pressure there, according to the Ukraine prime minister. So when the Ukraine prime minister says there's no pressure from the outside, it's the reverse. They're getting pressure from the outside. But because of the whole leak and everything that happened, this whole document leak, it looks like things are starting to change up. Or maybe not. Maybe Ukraine is going to launch a spring offensive. Maybe they're going to launch an offensive tomorrow because, from what I understand, the weather forecast in Donbass says that the ground is going to harden. It's going to dry up and harden, and it can mean that Ukraine could launch their offensive as early as next week, or maybe they're going to launch their offensive over the summer, like the Ukraine prime minister said in the interview with The Hill. They are keeping us guessing. They are keeping the whole world guessing as to when this big offensive is going to take place. But Schmeigel, he did get some goodies from Canada. He did not leave empty-handed. What he received from Justin Trudeau was a new package of military assistance, which included 21,000 assault rifles, 38 machine guns, and more than 2.4 million rounds of ammunition. He also got, I believe, the amount of money that Trudeau gave the Ukraine prime minister was something like $47 million, something like that. I could be off on that number, but he also got a nice check as well from Trudeau. So he's not getting any fighter jets. He's not getting any tanks. He's not getting the S-300s or Buks or air defense or anything like that. But he's getting 21,000 rifles, 38 machine guns, and some ammunition that'll last for however long it's going to last. And when he arrived in Canada, and this is actually my clown world. This should be my clown world. When he arrived in Canada, the plane that he arrived in. Now, before I say anything more, the plane that he arrived in, I'll put a picture on it. I'll put a picture on the screen of the plane right now. The plane right next to the Ukraine flag has two emojis. Now, I don't know if these emojis are real. I don't know if this is really painted on the plane or if this is photoshopped in. Is this some sort of prank or some sort of joke? Which is very possible. It's very possible that this is just a joke and this is fake. These emojis aren't on the plane, but next to the Ukrainian flag, you have an emoji of a fighter jet and of praying hands. In other words, praying for fighter jets from Canada. And he's traveling now to the U.S., so praying for fighter jets from the U.S. So, look, this could be real. If it's real, then wow. Wow, that's incredible that they've actually painted these emojis on the plane that the Ukraine prime minister is using to visit Canada and the United States. If it's fake, if these are fake and they're photoshopped in, and this is just a joke, then wow, good joke. That's pretty clever, pretty creative, I have to say. So anyway, I thought that was funny, and that's kind of my clown world. Emojis of a fighter jet and praying hands. And so the Ukrainian prime minister, he left Canada with some goodies, not a lot, some goodies. And he is now in the United States. He is going to be looking for more weapons. And I'm sure the Biden White House will give weapons and it'll give money and all kinds of other things. But I doubt the Biden White House is going to give him tanks and fighter jets. Actually, I'm pretty confident that the Ukraine prime minister is going to leave empty-handed with fighter jets and tanks. he's not going to get the things that he was looking for, but he'll get ammunition and stuff like that. Whatever the Biden White House can spare, that's what they'll give the Ukrainian prime minister. But I bet you Trudeau, if the emojis were real, if they were really painted on the plane, I bet you Trudeau was just like, wow, that's awesome. I bet you Trudeau was like, that is awesome. Hey, Prime Minister Schmeigel, welcome to Canada. It's really good to have you here. Hello, Justin Trudeau. It's good to be here. So, do you have fighter jets, tanks, air defense missiles to give me? Mr. Prime Minister, we don't have any F-18s to give you, and we already gave you a couple of cheetah tanks about a month ago, and we just can't spare any more. Justin Trudeau, you idiot. It's F-16s, not F-18s. And it's Leopard tanks. Leopard tanks. How many times do we need to tell you? Leopard, not cheetahs, not mountain lions, not tigers. Leopard tanks. Oh yeah, you're right. I always get big cats confused. Leopards, cheetahs, tigers. It always confuses me. But, Mr. Prime Minister, can I ask you a quick question? Yes, of course. Go ahead. Mr. Prime Minister, those emojis on the plane, who painted those? I would like to get those emojis on my plane. Maybe like a smiley emoji on my plane, or maybe like a smiley emoji and an eggplant emoji. That would be really cool because, you know, I'm a vegetarian, I'm a vegan, and I love eggplants. So I think that would be really cool if I could get some emojis painted on my plane. Oh, Trudeau, you idiot. Just give me a check for the money and I'll be on my way to the United States. So that's the meeting between the Ukrainian Prime Minister and Justin Trudeau. And Zelensky, he is also looking for weapons. He is making phone calls, searching for S-300s, anti-aircraft, air defense systems. That is what Zelensky is really searching for. And he called up the Greek Prime Minister again the other day, and he is begging for air defense systems. Now, the Ukrainian defense minister, he visited Greece, he visited Cyprus, he was in Bulgaria, and we now have confirmed that when he was in Cyprus, when Reznikov was in Cyprus, he was indeed looking for the Buk missile systems. That's what he wanted. He wanted the Buk missile systems that Cyprus has. I believe Cyprus has something like, I want to say eight Buk systems, either 6 or 8. And he came here looking for those systems. The Cypriot government said we can't give those systems up, and he left empty-handed. But he also asked for air defense systems from the Greek government, and the Greek government had to deny him as well. But Zelensky, he called up Mitsotakis the other day, actually yesterday, I believe. He tweeted about it, actually. One sec. Zelensky actually tweeted about his phone call with Mitsotakis. He said, I had a phone call with the Prime Minister of Greece, K. Mitsotakis. I outlined the situation on the battlefield and the current defense challenges facing Ukraine. We agreed to continue security cooperation. That means he got a firm no from the Greek Prime Minister. When you read a tweet like this one from Zelensky, it means that Zelensky once again asked the Greek government for air defense, and Mitsotakis told him no. So they are searching for the S-300s, the Buks, because according to the leaked documents, Ukraine is running out, or is out, of Buk and S-300 air defense missiles. Let's now talk about what should we talk about? How about the money situation in and around Ukraine? That's a good topic to talk about. It's not only about weapons, it's also about money and the globalists and the political elite of the collective West cashing in on Project Ukraine. And there is a lot of talk over the past couple of days about reconstruction money for Ukraine. A lot of talk about getting the reconstruction efforts moving once again. And the World Bank, they came out with a statement and they said that collective West countries, they need to start preparing the reconstruction efforts and to start signaling how much money they're going to give Ukraine for reconstruction. Poland said that they would like to be the hub of these reconstruction funds. That is what the Polish government said yesterday. Polish government said, we've been acting as the hub for military equipment, so we should absolutely act as the hub for all of the reconstruction money. Well, of course, of course you should act as the hub for the reconstruction money. Absolutely. And Zelensky, he said, you know what, all of this reconstruction talk and this reconstruction money, how about I raise my military budget and I say that Ukraine should have a military budget of, I don't know, let's say $14.6 billion. How about that? Zelensky signed a bill providing for a $14.6 billion increase in defense spending, not even a military budget, an increase. How about a $14.6 billion increase in military spending? Why not? Why not? Zelensky has to get in on this money train. Absolutely. And he makes up a number. 14 billion, why not? Sure. I'm sure his advisors, his finance minister was like, hey, Mr. Zelensky, why not raise the military budget maybe 5 billion? And Zelensky probably sat there and said, 5 billion. I can only buy 10 homes, 10 properties in Europe with 5 billion. Let's make it 10 billion. No. Let's make it 15 billion. No. 15 billion doesn't sound good. Let's make it 14.6 billion. That sounds like we calculated things and we added things. 14.6 billion. That sounds good. I sign a decree from today saying that Ukraine will increase its military budget by 14.6 billion. This sounds very good. Very good. I can buy many homes, maybe 30 homes, maybe 40 homes with 14.6 billion. I like it. I like it very much. America will print this money and they will give it to me. He's just making up numbers. 14.6, 15.6, 5.6, whatever. What does he care? He doesn't have to pay for any of this stuff. It's all going to come from the pockets of U.S. taxpayers anyway, or actually it's just going to be printed by the Biden White House. Janet Yellen also gave a speech the other day, and she said that the U.S. is considering more money to Ukraine, and they're even considering lending the money to Ukraine, financing Ukraine to the tune of like 120 billion. And she said by 2025 or something like that, the amount could actually go up to 140 billion financing from the U.S. government to the Zelensky regime. Anyway, let's do a clown world and we'll wrap this video up. And this clown world has to do with the leaked documents, Canada and oil pipelines. And according to one of the leaked documents, US intelligence was telling Canadian officials that Russian hackers were targeting Canadian pipelines. How about that? Russian hackers targeting Canadian pipelines. Oh, those Russian hackers. And according to the leaked document, the fact that hackers could actually gain control of the pipeline system is something that is pretty common, actually, that hackers try to gain control of these systems. It's not really that serious an issue. It's something that all governments are aware of, and they have ways to deal with the hackers. But the threat of Russian hackers infiltrating the Canadian energy pipeline system, man, that is some serious stuff. That is some serious stuff. Pretty soon, Russia's going to blow up Canadian pipelines. That would be bad. Can you imagine that? If Russia actually blew up critical energy infrastructure in Canada? Who would ever do such a thing? Who would ever target pipeline infrastructure? That's just crossing a line. That is crossing a line there. Oh man, Seymour Hersh, he gave an interview on Nord Stream, and he was like, the Biden White House, they were threatening Russia with blowing up Nord Stream as a way to prevent Russia from invading Ukraine. And he said that the Biden White House was like actually using the sabotaging of the Nord Stream pipeline as leverage over Russia. Yeah, the Biden White House, Nord Stream, just don't look at any of that. Focus in on Russian hackers and Canadian pipelines. That's what we need to focus on. All right, that's the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble and Rockfin, ODYSEE, BitChute, and Telegram, and go to the Duran shop. 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY and check out the Duran shop page on Instagram. And we are giving a giveaway. And if you guys want to stick with me, that's the end of the news video. If you want to stick with me, I'm going to just give a quick look at this outdoor market. I'm just going to do a walk right through. So if you want to stay with me, that's cool. I'm not going to talk about news really. I'm just going to show everybody what's being sold at a market, an outdoor market in Cyprus. Take care. Fruits, vegetables, kinds of good stuff. Potatoes, apples. Okay. All right, let's get this video up. Take care, everybody.